In this video, we'll review how to configure your CitraTest load test and open the VU controller, create a scenario, launch the CitraTest VU desktops, and begin the load test. So for example, you might have a working script that plays back on the desktop as a single user, and now it's time to take the script and play it back across a number of VUs to simulate a multi-user load test. The first thing we want to do is create a RDP connection that we're going to use to generate these so-called VU desktops. So this RDP connection is unique in the sense that you're going to have it connect to the local host, to this load server itself. So you can create a RDP connection, you can call it CitraTest VU, and again, it's going to be connected to localhost. You want to use the same user profile that you used to create the script on the main desktop. Essentially, we're taking that same desktop that we used to build the script and we're duplicating it X number of times over, which each one of those desktops simulating a single end user. So we want to use that user profile. On the display tab, you want to use the same resolution as that desktop or smaller. On the local resources tab, you want to make sure that all of these local devices and resources are deselected. And then on the experience tab, you can select LAN so that these VU desktop RDP sessions have the maximum display properties. And then you can go ahead and save that. In this case, I called it CitraTest VU.RDP. So we're going to use that to generate the so-called CitraTest VU desktops. So now we can put down the CitraTest script development environment and open the controller. Before we open the VU desktops, we'll make what's called a scenario. A scenario is simply where you list out all of the VUs that are part of the load test and what script or what activity you want each VU to do. So in this case, you'll see a column on the left called VU agent machines, and we want to add in our agents. We can use the local host because, again, they're all going to be running on this machine. The agent number, this refers to the VU agent. Each CitraTest VU desktop will have a unique agent number beginning with 4500. So we'll just enter in 10 for now, for sake of illustration. Inside this scenario interface, you can select groups of virtual users in the left-hand column and then configure properties in the right-hand side that apply to the selected VU. So in this case, we simply want to browse to a script to play back. So in this case, we will pick CRM Published App VU. Now in this case, I'm going to leave all the other defaults, but again, you can change those settings and those settings will apply to whatever VU sessions you have highlighted in the left-hand column. So now we have a scenario. Now we've instructed each virtual user what to do. In this case, it's a fairly simple load test in the sense that each of the 10 virtual users will execute the same script. Now it's actually time to launch open the so-called VU desktops before we can start the load test. And that's where we come up to the virtual user session menu, launch VU sessions. We're just going to launch 3 right now for readability's sake. Then we're going to browse to that RDP file that we spoke of. That is the RDP file that connects to the local host. It's going to be launched multiple times over by this controller. Each instance of this RDP will replicate an individual end user desktop. Now at this point, you have a choice of launching all of the VU desktops using the same user profile or using a different user profile for each one. For example, Demo 1, Demo 2, Demo 3. And that will really be determined by the nature of your application and whether your application allows individual end users to have the same Windows login and then log into the application differently, or in the case of like a single sign-on application like Citrix, whether the application forces each separate user to have their own separate Windows login and then again log into the application. We're going to do the latter, so we're going to say that each CitraTest VU desktop will have its own user profile. And you can actually use this interface to create those different user profiles. We already have them, Demo 1, Demo 2, et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm doing here is saying that I want to use credentials for each VU session, increment, so we'll start with the base name and then it will go Demo 1, Demo 2. And then enter our password. Okay, so now let's click Launch. And now we're finally going to see these CitraTest VU desktops open. These are nothing more than RDP connections to this local load server. So again, we're just taking that main desktop that we built the script on initially and launching it a number of times over. Once they launch open, it's just important to keep them open and not minimized. If you minimize these sessions, the remote desktop will turn off the video and the script won't be able to play back. So you can cascade them, you can tile them, you can stack them, just don't minimize them. So in this case, if we cascade them, we can see that we have the controller open in the background and we have 3 CitraTest VU desktops. Each one is running the CitraTest VU agent, starting with 4500 and on up. So now when we want to play back these scripts in VU mode, instead of using the CitraTest scripting interface and playing back a single user on one desktop, again, we go to the controller and now we're going to play back our scenario. I'll select the first 2 VUs because we only have 3 VU desktops open. And I open those, click play, and now you can see that the load test is playing back. So the procedure would be the same whether you were launching open 3 of these desktops or 200 of these desktops. And again, you can custom tailor your scenario to your needs. You could have 200 VUs and you could have each block of 20 virtual users doing a different transaction. In this case, we have a very simple load test where everybody was assigned to do the same script. But those are the procedures for creating the RDP file, opening the controller, creating the scenario, and then launching the CitraTest VU script playback.